Welcome back to American Warrior Radio right here on the Talk to Me station, AM 1300 WMEL. And for all those of you that are listening on the internet at 1300WMEL.com, Happy New Year! We're glad you're with us, and we know you're out there because we get your emails and phone calls, and we certainly appreciate it. Please spread the word because American Warrior Radio is really one of the few radio stations, particularly terrestrial. There's a lot on the internet. And I can personally attest to the fact that a lot of the stuff you hear on the internet, on these so-called internet radio shows, is not necessarily up to speed, and I don't want anybody to get misguided because they heard something and it was a rumor, and these folks claim to be experts and they're dumber than a box of rocks. I've had to call in several times, almost every time.
Well put.
Yeah, Kim will get on the line and dial up some of these outfits and we're listening, and it's just totally contrary to the truth.
Yeah.
And there's listeners, and probably not a lot, but there are listeners to some of these, and that's all it takes to get a rumor started is throw out some nonsense, and before you know it, people are going, huh? So we gotta avoid that, and you can always count on the straight poop right here at American Warrior Radio. We ask you to please let us know what you think. If there's some particular issue you want us to address, you can dial us right now, 321-631-1300. 631-1300, or you can email us at kim@avetproject.org. AVET is just an acronym, American Veterans Empowerment Team. So kim@avetproject.org with your concerns, interests, maybe story features that you'd like to have broadcast on American Warrior Radio. We're always interested in hearing from you folks, whether you're out there in Missoula, Montana, or up there in Vermont, or in Houston, Texas. There's a whole lot going on. Since I'm on the subject, I want to mention real quick, for those of you that listen or watch the military channel, and I believe it's on several different venues, but we have DirecTV, Marty Gonzalez, who we've had on the program, he's actually gone through an AVET project, PR&R, Project Recuperation and Reintegration Retreat. He's featured in the Ultimate Warrior television program right now about Fallujah and his experience over there. So if anybody, you just go to your DirecTV or whatever cable operator you've got, if you get the military channel, you want to watch this. It's an amazing story. It'll bring a tear to your eyes, but at the same time, which is kind of weird, it also really brings about a feeling of patriotism and belief that what they were doing, they believed was the right thing.
Yeah, and that's so important. And just as a quick primer, Fallujah is one of those places you definitely did not want to be. It was all the people in Iraq who were against us seemed to have congregated all in that one city.
Oh my God!
And
we had to go door to door.
Yeah, it wasn't tanks running over people. It's door to door stuff, and that gets to be nasty.
Yeah, and one thing after all these years, because I think the television program with Marty Gonzalez, who is a Marine. They talked about how when they fired upon these insurgents, and they're combatants, enemy combatants, whatever you want to call them, these raging idiots, these morons, these anti-American. Well, they're hostile to basically anybody that doesn't believe in them.
Well, yeah, and a lot of them have been hopped up on drugs.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
I'd never heard this before, and I'm watching this program.
Yeah, finish off there because this is pretty interesting. I found it very interesting. They're so
bizarre.
hopped up on drugs that
our guys would shoot at them to take them down, and they just keep coming. They're riddled with bullets, but they keep coming at our troops. And it was just amazing to hear, not just Marty, but gosh, half a dozen other guys talk about how they were like zombies. They were coming at them because, like you said, Glenn, they were absolutely jacked up on all kinds of drugs.
Yeah, which had their body system so jacked up that even I think in one example they said the guy took 6 straight shots to the body and he's still coming. Zombie is a good example. Oh, my goodness.
It's horrifying to watch because there is some live footage incorporated into that program. Encourage you all to do that. Check that out on the military channel, Ultimate Warrior, Fallujah. It's a testament to how awesome our troops are, really.
Oh, absolutely. To hang in there with that kind of stuff going on, because you can, what should have been saving your life by taking down the enemy might result in you losing your life because the enemy's still coming and you're going, Yeah,
Why isn't he dropping?
You get confused. Why didn't he drop? And that 1 second of confusion can be a bullet.
And I want to say, kind of on a, well, it's a touch of reality here. This particular soldier, Marty Gonzalez, suffered a broken back, and he's got Bronze Stars, Purple Hearts, of course, all this for gallantry and valor and being wounded. Well, he's in Houston, Texas right now, and he's got a piece of the hardware. I guess they put in a cage in his low back. And a couple of the screws are coming out. And I've had this situation with one of my ankles. The screws are coming out. He goes into the VA hospital in Houston. And again, Glenn and I are never going to sit here and bash the VA, but let's talk truth to truth here. He's sitting there waiting, and they're telling him, yeah, the hardware's coming out. Well, we'll see you in May.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
5 months from now. So my advice to him, and my advice to anybody out there, that maybe you have gone through the traditional means of problem resolution at your local VA clinic or hospital and seen the, what do they call them, the patient advocate?
Yeah, the patient advocate. And while that may be a VA employee, they usually do a good job of getting down to the facts and determining what's going on. And you can always go to the head person in the clinic.
That's right. Chief of staff, baby.
Yeah.
If you are absolutely running up against a brick wall, I don't care if you're a war hero like Marty Gonzalez or just a veteran that's just not getting the care that you desperately need, and you obviously deserve it, then you need to start jumping over those hoops and go right to the man or woman in charge.
Well, that's right. I mean,
they work for us.
They work for us, and 99% of them are for veterans, and they want to do the right thing for veterans and get the right thing done for veterans.
And they may not know their staff isn't doing what they need to be doing.
Exactly. And, it only takes one bad apple to spoil the whole barrel. But, I find by and large, especially on the medical side, they're all about doing the right thing. They're all about being overwhelmed, too. So that results in some of these situations like Marty's. But that doesn't excuse it. That defies medical treatise to have somebody that has that kind of a problem and tell them you can come back in 5 months. No.
No, we hear so much about the guys and gals that are suffering from the unseen wounds of war, these TBIs and PTSD,
right,
not getting the treatment they deserve. And there's a whole lot of stuff we could talk about on that front, but suffice to say, if you're at a VA caregiver, whether it's a clinic or a hospital, and you really don't think you're getting the care that you need, I'm not talking about being a malingerer, and I know very few of them are. Very few of our vets are malingerers, but there are some. But if you're there and you're not getting the medicine you need, or you're not getting the treatment or care, or maybe a surgery and you're in terrible pain, you've got to be your own best advocate.
Oh, absolutely. Don't just go away.
No.
That'll be fine, I guess, if you're already overloaded and somebody just leaves and goes back to a private doctor and pays for it themselves, or has insurance, if they have insurance, pay for part of it. That's not the solution you need. It needs to get to the right people. If it has to be the head person in charge there to get the system changed, and back to one bad apple spoils the whole barrel.
That's right.
But you got to identify the bad apple to the right people so that person can get retrained or whatever it takes to turn them around.
Right. Be tactful. Be diplomatic, but be forceful when you talk to the chief of staff or one of his liaisons, even the patient advocate, but also be demanding. You've got a problem, you need it fixed, and that's what they're getting a paycheck to do. They only have one purpose altogether, and that is to serve the vets. Okay, they have no other job. They are there to serve the vets. Glenn, as we're talking about this, I know you wanted to talk about the combat-related special compensation. It kind of goes along with this because it is a specific benefit.
Yeah, and this kind of ties into, since in our county they're sending you to our office to give them a guidance letter that says we think this person's eligible for this new Amendment 2 tax discount based on our review of their VA records. And so what guidance do we have? Well, we got some guidance from that briefing I talked about that went
Right.
around from Florida Department of Veterans Affairs, and most all of that guidance still applies. It's just the eligibility factor is a lot more people are eligible because you didn't have to be a Florida resident when you entered active
Which
duty.
is spectacular. Thank you for the Florida State Legislature doing that.
You bet. Now, some of the guidance that we use is the same thing the military uses for what they call combat-related special compensation.
What's that?
All right, that is a special pay that restores your retired pay if approved, just like another thing does, and we'll tie it together here in a minute. But that's pay given for disabilities that are combat related. In other words, it used to be every dollar you got from the VA was subtracted from your military retired paycheck.
Dollar for dollar offset.
Dollar for dollar. Now, if you get we'll just stick with one to make it a little simpler. If you get combat-related special compensation, every dollar you get that's been approved as combat-related compensation for you is a dollar restored to your retired pay. In other words, if you're getting $100 from the VA and that $100 is being taken from your retired pay, and you get combat-related special compensation approved for that disability, then the $100 is not taken from your military retired pay, and you continue to get the extra $100 from the VA, plus the $100 that is restored to your retired pay is tax-free.
Which is a really important benefit, and that is, in the past, kind of setting the theme here, if you had, let's just use a simple example, $100 of retired pay coming from the Air Force, and you got your VA disability and they approved it for, say, $90. That means you get a check from the VA, which was tax-free, for $90, and you get a check from the Air Force for $10, but that was taxable.
Exactly.
And now under this program, CRSC, it's as you described it. It's a restoring of that $90.
Correct.
To your retired pay, which is tax-free, that $90 of
Yeah.
it. Plus, you're going to get the $90 from the VA, which is also tax-free.
That's right. So you're gaining a tax advantage on both sides, and you're gaining a restoration of your retired pay. You no longer have this dollar for dollar offset for combat-related special compensation. Now, we're using some of the same eligibility criteria that the military is using and helping determine if we send that letter over to the tax people saying we think this person's eligible for Amendment 2 at whatever percent is the appropriate percent to your situation. And, you know, some of the eligibility criteria are you got an injury that's service-connected. Now, make it simple. All these I'm going to talk about are for injuries that are service-connected by the VA. You've got a percentage rating by the VA for these disabilities. One eligibility criteria be if you were training for combat. And I know, oh my goodness, when I was stationed in Germany, they had what they call Reforger, was this huge Army, Air Force combined. They didn't have any Navy because Germany didn't really have a place to float the ships, but that was a huge exercise, sometimes twice a year, but for sure annually, and
War games.
Yeah, war games, and lots of people got injured in those war games, got hit by tanks and all kinds of things, and then was ended up being service-connected disabilities approved by the VA. Well, that meets the criteria because you're training for combat.
That's right.
The simplest is you were injured actually in combat. You know, you probably got a Purple Heart, but you may not in all cases have it. But the injury is a result of direct conflict with the enemy.
Correct. If you got your toe run over by a tread on a tank, that's not direct contact with the enemy. So you may have a service-connected crush injury on your foot, but you're not going to get a Purple Heart. But it's still, you're in combat.
That's right. And so it would qualify under that eligibility criteria definition. What's interesting is the next one, and that's if you're injured while using or around unique military equipment. You know, some things are easier to understand. Tanks are obviously unique military equipment.
I'm with you.
Ships, airplanes that are unique to the military, all those kinds of things that are unique to the military, cannons and all those kind of things. The interesting example they give on the forum, I'd still get a chuckle out of it, is that if you're playing intramural football and you run out to catch a pass and the tank comes onto the football field and hits you while you're doing that, that's a combat-related disability.
That's an example.
That's an example of this category.
Okay.
Conversely, if you're running out for a pass and the tank's parked on the sidelines and you get hit and knocked into the tank, that's not combat related.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I know. Shake your head. You didn't have to take a note there.
Just if you think your injury would qualify, then you need to see somebody like Glenn.
Oh, absolutely. And by the way, for these combat related, we're definitely going to have a copy of your VA rating decision. I don't know, you people, some of you people out there must eat them for breakfast or something. I can't believe people 3 months ago got a rating decision. Where is it? Oh, I don't know. I think I threw it out with the trash.
This needs to be filed away with your automobile titles, your deed to your house. These are important documents.
Very important, and you're going to use them more than once. I guarantee it, you're going to need it again down the road for things like combat-related special compensation.
Right.
Now, last example would be hazardous duty. That's things like Navy divers, parachute people in the Army, and, well, all branches, I guess, nowadays.
Sure.
Flying an airplane.
Okay. So anything that's above and beyond and potentially hazardous.
Yeah, exactly. And let me go back and clarify one other eligibility criteria. For combat-related special compensation, it used to be you had to have 20 or more years of active duty.
This is true.
And a couple of years ago, they changed that, and if you were medically retired from the military with 5 years, we'll say, for example, you can still get combat-related special compensation. However, what you get paid is going to be a fraction of what you would get if you had 20 years. So,
Which stands to reason.
Yeah. So if you had 5 years, that's, what, a quarter, 25%.
Sure.
So you can anticipate getting 25% of what a person that served 20 years would have gotten. But you do get it now. It's pretty small amounts for a lot of these guys. I have guys that come in with, been unfortunately so severely injured they were medically retired for like a year and a half or 2 years, less than 2 years. That it's minimal what they get, but at least it's there.
Exactly. They earned it, and it's coming back to them under this CRSC, so that's important.
You bet.
I was just looking over the 2013 basic pay tables with the 1.7% cost of living increase, an E4, so you're still junior enlisted with 4 years, because after 4 years you better be working on tech.
Right.
They're scheduled to make $2,300. So it's foreseeable that somebody could incur this injury that's determined to be combat related. The retirement's going to be based on that rather than, say, an E7 or something with 20 years, which is going to be like $4,500 or $4,800. So it stands to reason it's going to be a lesser amount, but it's still an important benefit.
Oh, absolutely. And so, it's changed from the 20-year eligibility to that, but now let's change gears real quick. We use that same kind of thought process when we're looking at your application for this discount for the taxes.
Okay.
So guess what we need? We need your VA rating decision. And you only have...
I think we mentioned that.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to mention it a couple times. You only have from 1 January to 1 March in most cases to apply for this tax discount. If you come in my office and you don't have your VA rating decisions, I can't wave a magic wand and produce them for you. We're going to have to just do a request in writing to the VA to send them to you, and they are about as fast on those as they are. I don't think you'll get them by 1 March if you apply next week. That's my point. So, fortunately, there are some provisions to ask for a waiver of the cutoff through the county tax people. And I think they meet a board like in November of each year. It's once a year they meet a board to consider all those requests. And it would be valid. I would even write a supporting letter to say, you know, the person didn't have their VA rating decision, had to get it from the VA, and the VA was slow in responding and didn't get it until after the cutoff. So it should be just and fair to give this person consideration at this time. And of course, we're going to need
That's
to look
the kind of guy you are.
That's right. We're going to still need to look at it and find the way, if we possibly can, to send that letter that says we think you're eligible. I'm going to tell you, it's going to happen. I'm going to be saying people no. I don't see any way you're eligible.
Right.
And don't take it out on me. I mean, you know, you are or you aren't.
That's
And
right.
I'll guarantee you, I'll squeeze every drop of water I can out of the rag to find a way to make you eligible. So if I have to come to the conclusion that you're not eligible,
You're not eligible.
you're not eligible.
Now, we wanted to talk about another important topic, especially for those folks that are on pension. Okay, these are low-income people that have no service-connected disabilities. They're receiving a non-service-connected pension. What's the latest on this whole thing, and how does it impact a veteran?
Well, and to help understanding, most people nowadays, the more elderly veterans out there, call this benefit A&A, or aid and attendance.
Okay.
But it's part of that's part of the pension
Right.
program. But you know, let's not mess words. Whatever you understand, we'll go with whatever you understand.
Sure.
But used to be. So pay attention. Used to be. That's such a big change word. Used to be every year you had to fill out what they called an EVR, an eligibility verification report. Unless you were on fixed income, your only income was like Social Security. And you had to fill this out to verify what your income was from all sources the previous calendar year. And then you also had an opportunity to report all your unreimbursed medical expenses. The ones that you actually paid, I need to tell you, not the ones that you have a bill for.
Right. Actually paid for them.
Yeah. And you then... That's sent to, nowadays, Philadelphia, the Pension Maintenance Center, and they look at what they are paying you and what income they were counting and what unreimbursed medical expenses they were allowing to see if that results in a change in how much you're going to get paid for the pension.
If you have those unreimbursed expenses, you could end up with more money in your pocket.
Oh, absolutely.
So this was an important idea. They needed to compare what you'd been paying with any changes to see if there was a potential for more income to you.
Yeah, it was a way of seeing, particularly if you had variable medical expenses. You know, if a big part of your medical expenses is for prescription drugs, well, that by its nature goes up and down. And, you know, one year it may be higher than the next year, and that may result in a change for a year in your pension eligibility amount.
So this was an important and integral part of the pension/A&A program.
Oh, absolutely. So
now what's happened?
Well, the Secretary of the VA, Secretary Shinseki, announced that to free up more workers to deal with the backlog and to make it easier on veterans, they're no longer going to require this eligibility verification report. And this year, being the first year that's going to be the situation, you're going to get a big, long letter. I'm not even going to try and read it to you because it's like 5 pages. But it's basically going to tell you that, and it's going to say you still have the opportunity to submit these unreimbursed medical expenses to try and get more money from the pension.
There just won't be anybody on the other end doing an actual review of them.
That's right, and you won't be subject on 1 March to having your pension suspended because you hadn't responded with your EVR. And so there's some good things about it, and there's some things I'm still wondering and scratching my head about. Like, there are people who only get some money once a year because they're not eligible for the pension based on income and net worth, or either or. And then at the end of the year, they're able well, net worth wouldn't be a count, but income. At the end of the year, they file unreimbursed medical expenses and get a lump sum repayment of whatever amount of money the VA determines they're entitled to. That's the only way they don't get money every month, so there's nothing to remind them to do that.
Right, and those people that are in that situation desperately need that money.
Oh, absolutely. Anybody getting money from the pension program desperately needs it. Every one of them is a financial hardship by definition of the pension program. It's for low-income wartime era veterans and their survivors. So, that definition alone tells you this is everybody who applied for this has got a financial difficulty. So it gets to be hard to say, please speed this one up because of financial difficulty. Well, all across America, there's probably 1,000 other people got applications pending that have the same or worse financial difficulty.
And as little as I like the whole EVR and the fact that there's sometimes a compliance problem with the vets doing these and it ends up in a big hairy mess, at the same time, by eliminating it, I think we're going to be doing a disservice to a great number of vets.
I do too, and what I want you to do this year, because that letter, you're not going to understand what in the heck they're doing and what the impact is on your pension. Bring it to us at Building B in the County Government Center, 633-2012, 633-2012, because I know it's, for a lot of veterans out there, it's going to confuse you about what's going on and what does this mean to me, because the letter doesn't come and say, this isn't going to change your pension entitlement amount or anything like that. So it's a little short in what it should be trying to get across to the veteran, but there's so many every claim is different, and we can figure it out for you.
Folks, thank you so much for this visit with us on American Warrior Radio. We look forward to talking to you again next week at this same time. Share the word. We really appreciate you being here. We'll see you again, and as always, Glenn,
don't forget, thank a vet.